New Year.
Welcome to 2026. We got a lot going on for you.
We do. And
yeah.
a really
We're
fun
predicting
episode.
the future. Yeah.
We are.
Long
with
but fun.
Our best friends. So, we invited or asked kindly, and we're very humbled that many of them said yes, our favorite people to follow across every category, and asked them for their predictions to add to our 2026 predictions. And there are a lot of commonalities. So I think there's fun stuff to dive into. Don't forget to listen through all of it, because it's all really juicy and fun and applies across like a category. So even when you get to beauty, keep going. So
a lot of good stuff. Dig into the website. We created a website for this. Yes. There's so much information in here, but this is great. Getting kind of the intel from our friends and breaking it down. Enjoy.
Hey everyone, it's Chris.
And Kirsten.
Welcome to Good Thinking Weekly, the podcast where we discuss the best of the best in brands, marketing, and culture.
Thousands of people, top execs from the likes of Complex, Klaviyo, Walmart, Wall Street Journal, and LVMH tune in every single week.
We run a creative consultancy in GoodCo, so we know what it takes to build a good brand.
Subscribe on YouTube, your favorite podcast app, and Good Thinking on Substack for more.
All right, let's dive in.
Welcome to 2026.
We're here.
We are.
I mean, I actually feel quite positive about this year, but like I am just coming off of a swimming pool incident. So I'm a little flustered, but I'm generally feeling like this year, new year, big year. It's
big year.
Things have got a lot going on.
Yes. And it's, what is it, the 7th? Yeah.
I mean,
it's a lot. A lot's happening in such a good way.
A lot's happening, but it's definitely a rolling year. Like we're just it's like the 13th month of 2025.
100%, but here for it. And this is a total treat for everybody. We did predictions at the end of last year.
Yes.
For 2026, and now all the guest predictions.
Yeah. So I totally nerded out and was just like, hey, last year I did this in a smaller way, but had people answer more questions. And this year I was like, I just really want to ask all the people I love to read, what their thoughts are. So I organized it by category, a little bit like I did last year, but this one just giving kind of big picture, what's their hot take, top of mind, I think these, there's a lot of predictions. I've gotten The Information has a prediction, Amex sent me a prediction list, everybody's got a prediction. But I think one of the things about all the people that I read and why I love to read them is that these aren't things that they're just it's an end of year wrap up and we need to come up with something, right? These people are experts that I follow all year round. And everything that they wrote to me, just aligns super well with what I've been sensing them feeling for the last few months. It's just summarized.
For sure.
And I think that's why it's so helpful, because I think a lot of these hot takes of a lot of people are like, yeah, we're getting back to analog. But I think it's much deeper than that. And how are we getting back to analog? And why are we getting back there? And what does it really mean? Instead of these typical trend reports that are mostly just fluff and people writing a lot of long-winded things.
Right. And we talked a bit about that, but I think one of the things I dig the most is that we're really able to dig in. See what I did there? We're really able to dig in and really understand and explore that. And that's what we'll do in today's pod. And then also, it is bigger and better this year. There's a whole website. There's a whole, there's a ton of information out there to sit and geek out for hours about it. So that's definitely something to dig into.
Yeah.
But without
if you haven't been on the predictions website, please go on it. Tell us what you think. Tell us if it was fun. I heard from Fred, who's in our, food and bev, and he was like, whoa, guys, you leveled up. And so I was excited that, people are seeing kind of what we're doing and trying to make it fun and, generally trying to make people be more entertained. I really hate reading trends decks, as shocking as that sounds. It's, you'd imagine that I'd read a lot, but I really, really hate them and didn't want to create something that was that. So hopefully you enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's into culture as we always start.
And starting with Anu. So Anu is somebody that I've met in person, which is always such a delight of Substack. Is I have a lot of Substack friends, and now they're starting to be friends in real life, which is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
But what's amazing about Anu is that, you know, she works for Majuri and she has a full-time job, but she's just like, she's a deep dot connector, like very similar to me. But she has also created this crazy database of all the things that she's tracking, and she starts to track them by like kind of trends. And so she's built this database, and you can, if you pay for her Substack, you can kind of go in and see all these rabbit holes of like, this is this, and here's examples of it. And like, if you wanted to spend, you know, a year just like going into rabbit holes, you could do that there.
Great.
And you should.
Here for it. Here for it. But
yeah,
her prediction.
Her prediction is aspirational humanity.
Which I'm here for.
And I think it's so on the money. Like, I think what's interesting is she's sort of talking about like, it's not just like, it's levels of humanity and like applauding sort of these like layers. So like the most human created like products will be like positioned as the most valuable, which is sort of historically, you know, what prestige is, right? Like it's like Laura Piana's like, you know, handmade da. That's always been prestigious, but it's like, I think for me, like what's different is for a really long time, like that's sort of lost. And I don't think it's just about like products. It's about ads. It's about brands putting in the effort and like bringing out the humanity, like in the way that they do things. And actually, she's not the only person. And Fred has some interesting examples of how some brands are actually doing this. And she does too, if you dive into kind of the links. But then she talks about sort of like then there's like a layer of human washed, which is like people faking the humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And I would put, like, she doesn't use this example, but I kind of put the J. Crew whole like vintage debacle
AI, yep.
into this human wash where it like feels really like hand vintage bespoke and then actually like it was just like very synthetic. And then there's the complete like synthetic slop mass production, which I think again, like with agentic, like so many brands that I know are like, oh yeah, like, and there's value to it in like, you know, being more efficient. But I think humans, again, we read through bullshit really, really fast. And so when you think about kind of using agents and AI, I think it's a really fine line that you have to toe where it feels like somebody thought about it and versus somebody just kind of, you can produce a lot, so you just produce a lot, you know?
Right. Production for production's sake. Yeah, totally. All right. There's a lot to get through, so we've got to be somewhat strategic about how we do this. But I think just to reiterate, like aspirational humanity is kind of the banner. Human created cultural products, right, is kind of the most valuable. Elevated synthetic content being human washed.
Yes.
Right. And then synthetic slop for the masses. I love her, you know, akin to ultra processed food. Like I totally see that and identify with that.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of how you have to think about it. And then she talks a little bit more about how she thinks like maybe a sort of more rebellious energy is also going to come back, and like where it's like all stripped away and like a more sincere version of brands where you sort of, again, much less process. But I think for a really long time, human made was really, really refined. And I think now we're starting to kind of feel the need to sort of see the process, see the mess, see the fibers of like how you're making things. That's how I interpret this. But of course, you know, it would be better for her. Maybe she'll come on the pod and tell us what she really meant by that.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think it's helpful to have a conversation around it. And I totally see you with that. The kind of less perfect human made. What comes up for me is like handwritten notes when she said this subversive sincerity, which I absolutely love. And speaking of handwriting, like that was something that, you know, I've seen a bit about, like, and it kind of messy handwriting, which I obviously really identify with and love that being, you know, not just like approved, but kind of glorified. But I think it is part of that like imperfect piece.
Yeah, which is a perfect segue into Matt Klein's prediction. So like the fact that Matt Klein graced us with his presence in these predictions is like, you know,
love Matt.
Made my 2025. But he talks about his big prediction was like nuance becomes the antidote to everything. And I think so much is very polar. Like in general, like the mindset of everything, especially hasn't really gone away in 2026.
No.
Energy has just really come at us with that. And I think, you know, there's a desire, I think, from a lot of people, like maybe more of the people, who aren't necessarily, I would say, like, you know, how they say maybe 5% of people are commenters and like you just feel like it's like everybody. And then there's 2% of posters and then there's the rest of us. I guess I can't include myself in that anymore. But,
No, you can't.
you know, the sort of 90% of people that don't say anything, generally speaking, are looking for sort of that complexity, like willing to have like more ambiguous, like it's okay that you're not this brand that's like a monolith and that you are completely intelligible to every aspect of your audience, because quite honestly, and we've talked about this a lot, like people are complex and like the brands that are getting that, like, you know, we talked about wellness anarchists a lot last year, right? But like
We
this
did.
is so much that, and that to me is an extreme example of this, but so many brands have kind of just, they're very one note. And the brands that are going to come out and say, we're this, but we're that, we're this, but we can feel this, and people too, I think they're going to do well. Like you don't have to kind of answer to everyone's understandable version of yourself.
Yeah, I think that tracks. And I think nuance becomes the antidote is kind of not an anti-AI thing, but it's really that nuance that you need a human to really go in and specify and create versus like just being kind of formulaic.
Totally.
All right.
And then
Our buddy Michelle.
Blaser. I love Michelle.
Yeah.
Michelle, I think Michelle is like 1 day into maternity leave. So shout out to Michelle, or maybe the baby's not even here yet. So if you're not here yet, baby, welcome to the world when you are. And she had this take that her and I had talked about before, which is that the South is going to kind of take over, not the take over, but like become more of a focus for brands than the coasts will be. And I don't know if it's like they completely obliterate the coasts for me. Like, I don't think that will happen. But I think it's that, you know, the South, even, you know, the Midwest, which so often has gotten overlooked by so many brands. Like it's like, and because it is a harder audience to understand, like they don't behave the way that coastal audiences behave. Know that. And I think, again, because brands were like, oh, well, we can't be that and this at the same time, then you had this massive problem, right? Where you're like, okay, well, if we're a New York City brand, like, you know, we have this New York energy, like we can't be for Southern like audiences and we can't portray that in our brand, right? And that's just completely out. And I also think that the update, and we talked about this again, you know, wellness, longevity, all of these things are also trending in the South and also trending in the Midwest, you know, like what used to be like kind of like, oh, like there is like a more backwards culture, or it's like it's got its own culture, quite honestly, is not true anymore. Much like when you say like, oh, I don't really understand like certain like international markets, and like the international markets are really not as different. Like the UK market is not as different as it used to be from the US market.
Totally. I mean, I think it ties back into, you know, the nuances thing. Like, you know, in so many industries, retail especially, like Southern Belt was always looked at differently than the Midwest. You need different product, you need a different voice, you need kind of different things to really lean into that. But there are really these nuances. And I think there's inspiration coming from these places that it's like, okay, well, maybe the cities need to look at what's happening in the South as well.
Well, yeah. And a big part of that is like the like Bama Rush and all of these things with colleges. Like a lot of the trends in college are coming more from the Southern colleges. So they're informing like a massive amount of like cultural like, you know, it's going this way, but it's going out.
Yeah. It's loud and it's happening for sure. All right. Victoria?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's a lot of similarities like in these, but just sort of like the idea of nostalgia for like humanity, you know, like I think we are all, I think, you know, I think more than ever, people are, I put this in my predictions as inner world building. Like, I think that we're all seeing it in ourselves, that we're kind of losing, you know, like as you start to use things like, you know, like you're using Claude to help you do this. Like I use ChatGPT to help me do that. Like you can see it in your own self, just the way you can see when you're using your phone too much, right? Like you can see like where you're like, oh, like that's not me, and like you have to pull back from it.
Totally.
And I think that brands are, they're trying to run at the speed of light and they don't see it as quickly as you feel it in yourself, right? But I
Sure.
think we're all because you're feeling the pressure of like your boss, you're this, you're that. And so you're like, okay, well, we're just gonna keep plowing through. But the energy of the Apple like thing that they did with the glass, like I don't know how to say that word. Mnemonic?
Mnemonic? Yeah. We'll
Yeah.
go
I mean,
mnemonic.
clearly that's not our specialty, so don't come to us for how to
No,
say
this is
words.
not why anyone's tuning in.
But, you know, I've said multiple times throughout the year that I think a big asset for brands as they create campaigns in 2026 will be the behind the scenes footage, and not like your old BTS, like where it's just like, oh, like this is fun and girls are laughing in the corners and like, but really like how did this get made is going to be a massive asset to you. Like when you're proving kind of like the effort. And again, this comes down to effort. I think people want to, like, the nostalgia is not just for humanity, but it's for effort, care, the feeling that you took the energy, time to make something of people's valuable, like that values people's time and energy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes, totally. I think she's, I love what she said. Human crafted connection will win, whether it's perfection or imperfect. And I think that's an interesting take. But I think it really is about showing that human craft, whereas before it's been more about, as you said, kind of BTS behind the scenes, which doesn't really show that human craft. I think it's kind of a more vulnerable take, which I love.
Yes.
Achuko.
All right. Ochuko, I love her. She's so like good at being like short and succinct, which is like one of the reasons why you would read her newsletter. Is it's
Yes.
very similar to I think shorter. I don't know. It's similar to my newsletter. But it's like just such good hot takes. And she talks about sort of the shift away from glossification, which I think has been happening for a while. But I will say it shifted to sort of like glossification went to like this maximalist version of glossification, if you know what I mean, like bubbly things.
Right.
It was like sort of a different version of glossification, and now we're seeing kind of a much more mature, like sexier, like refined language coming in design, and it's already happening, and I think it's going to keep happening in a bigger way. I think Merit was like the big beginning of this, but it just continues to grow.
Yeah, and I love that she spots it first in beauty and wellness, which I think is oftentimes kind of where directions start.
Yeah, that and sport, depending on which kind of trend you're looking at, I
Right.
think.
Right. I don't know if sexy or more mature is starting in sport. I think beauty and wellness is where my money
But I
is.
think actually, like, it's such a good, like, thing, because I think, one of the things that the truth is that, like, these aesthetics, like, they don't stay within category anymore. Like, I think you
For
used
sure.
to have this look and it was like, oh, that's the Glossier look, and so it's just for wellness and beauty. And, like, now it's like, oh, like, I can make, obviously, a fashion brand but look like this, but I can make a sports brand look like this.
Yeah.
And I think that, as you start to see, like, even Athos or, like, Athlos, it's just a slightly different take on a Nike, like, vibe, and it's starting to kind of, like, but I think it could go even further, and then you have Tracksmith, and you have Bandit, and, like, they're starting to go in a slightly more sophisticated way, and then it'll keep going in that
Yeah,
direction.
true. Bandit's a great example of that. And I would say sexier and more mature is definitely where they're headed. So I think that's a good example. And I'm all here for the fact that design categories like beauty all used to look the same, or wellness all used to look the same, or sport all used to, like, nobody wants that. And that really speaks again to
No.
the nuance.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, again, I think for a really long time it was like, oh, okay, I'm going to be a D2C brand. I have to like jump on the bandwagon of these aesthetics. I actually think that, like, when too many people jump on this like sexy, more refined trend, which will happen in like a heartbeat now that everybody can make everything in an instant, like, we're going to see more variety because you kind of have to create the variety because we're moving so quickly. Because it's like
Right.
you get inundated so quickly. Like, it's like, oh, here you go. Like, I've created the exact same thing, like, in half an afternoon.
Yep. Yep. Okay, this next one I'm really excited for because I get to say this one last time.
Nonsense communities.
6, 7.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I'm desperate to have Marie on to unpack this because she's such a philosophical thinker. And I feel like I'll never do justice to kind of the way her mind works. She fell off her scooter in Paris, and I was supposed to meet up with her, and she's okay.
Oh,
And she
no.
will not be on the pod today. But We'll have her on another day, maybe. One of the things that she talks about is sort of again, it comes down to nuance, but it's such a different expression of nuance, right? So like instead of chasing clarity and like viral simplicity and just being understood, like brands can create like magnetism by kind of like tapping into micro languages, tapping into symbols, tapping into rituals, tapping into kind of the ambiguity or the stories. And like I think that this is happening very much in gaming, and it's happening also. I mean, you've seen it in the Minecraft movie, and like everybody suddenly
Oh, I
like
have.
yells at a certain thing. Like you're like,
Oh, they
what's
do.
going on? But I actually think like while it's happening kind of very natively in those like very particular alpha communities, there's such a desire for that in a lot of other communities, right? To feel really connected and to feel like you're part of it. Like you even see in Substack, like just people sign up for Substacks now simply to just be able to talk in the communities, right? To feel like, oh,
Totally.
like you know exactly what kind of like this I like. And they're referring back to like articles that like, enter, and you're like in a whole world where you're like, okay, like, and there's, rules of engagement, da 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 da. And I think that the more brands that embrace sort of like the absurdity, the lore, the da 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 da. But I don't think it's just alpha brands, is my point.
Right. But I think her example and tying back to my ridiculousness is that I don't think I can say 6'7" without doing this. I think my daughter might kill me.
Right.
Was that she used that as an example. And I love that she, identified that, well, dictionary.com, I guess it was the word of the year, but basically said that deliberately erased kind of the definition of it, right? Like you can define it, like I've heard it defined by my kids in various ways, but there's also kind of no actual definition of it, which, she kind of points out leads to kind of tighter human connection, which I love.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, one thing I've been really enjoying watching of all the parents that I have of alphas is like, for a while there was like kind of a rejection of the 6'7" thing. And then like almost all the parents I know are kind of like as in on it now, or feel as in on it as they were. And like the community has sort of grown outside of kids. Like, I don't think it's like when my mom started saying sup, but like, I think it's better than that.
Oh, please let
But it's
that be
just
an outtake.
interesting. It was a time, but it's interesting to see things evolve. But I do think brands can kind of tap into that, and like it is absurd, like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's scary for brands, because the more of the absurdity and the more you let people allow absurdity into your brand is scary. It's worth doing.
Well, it's a new level of unhinged. And I think that's such an unlock. And I think that's why it's so beautiful that she articulated around kind of 6'7". It's kind of Pavlov at this point, because it's such a great example. And it is, again, tying back to that nuance. All right. Fred, moving sections.
Fred, as we had Fred on as one of our first guests on this podcast.
We
need
did.
to have Fred back on, but he just had a baby, so he won't be coming on.
Everybody's having babies.
I mean, people are doing things.
I'm here for it.
I love it.
Not mine.
You're not having babies. No updates there. All right. So yeah, he talks again about embracing the analog, and sort of like there was like this frictional sameness, and like we've all talked about it. Like it's just like every brand like started, and like again, the minute that a brand goes like more unhinged, more crazy, like now the quicker it seems that there was a retro moment for like 3 weeks where it was like every brand came out. Then there was a moment where every brand was called lore. Like
yes.
literally every brand.
Literally.
And I think that, he has some really great examples of like Lay's did this like ad campaign where they actually used potato stamping, and they actually made the potato stamps, and then they used that as part of their creative, right? And I've seen one I really like that he doesn't have in here, that was like a bakery that used the pattern of bread, like literally took like piece of bread and put ink on it, and then used that as like to make pattern. And it was like, and they used it as a print. It was beautiful. Really well done.
That's cool. Yeah. The Polaroid one really stands out to me as well.
Yeah, the Polaroid one is so good. And I think that so much of just like wanting to see, again, the process, like Merit did this back when they launched one of their eyeshadows, and they did it really well, where they sort of showed like they created this book of like, and I think probably it was literally a process book of somebody who was like deeply involved in the brand. But then they filmed it and they kind of did this reveal of like how it felt. And that came out on social. And it's an art form showing that, like, and how to take
For
that
sure.
and elevate it. And I think we'll see a lot more people try to figure out how to kind of embrace that, but do it in their own way and not just like as a performance art project. You know,
Right.
again,
Right.
performing humanity is not the goal, which would bring us back to Anu's prediction of like, once you start performing the humanity and doing it just to show that you did it, which is why I said that I don't think that human-made stamps will work, like saying organic or whatever. Like, I just
Mhm.
don't think that anyone cares. The minute you kind of codify it or take a sort of away the authenticity of the whole thing, the minute we're like, oh, like that's not it.
Right. Right. It's like if you say it's cool, it's not cool. If you put a stamp on it, that you got to
Yeah, but
show it and not
if
say
we
it.
just start seeing everybody like just do human made for human made sake, like that's not the point. I actually think like we're raising the point of this, the thing that people are gravitating towards is the sort of art form level of this.
Right. I think it's the imperfections. And as Fred said, I think it's human inefficiencies are becoming the competitive moat. Like, I love that.
All right.
Okay. Silvers, alphas, and Zs, and a name I cannot pronounce. So obviously, I'm going to
I think
give
it's
that one to you.
Einat.
Okay. And not Israel. Great. Israeli.
Einat and I are friends on LinkedIn. We actually don't know each other, but like one of the things that I love about following her is that she used to work at Nike a long time ago, but she's really leaned into sort of the silver space and talking about that. And she always like, so if you're really into the kind of that, like she's a great person to follow because she always is posting about kind of how people are doing it differently and integrating kind of not just seniors, but just like showing that like there's just a gigantic marketing world out there, which is what I'm always talking about. Like, just,
Yes.
it's just not, they're not like token old people anymore. Like, we can just market to old people. Like, we just don't need, like, it's okay. And I think what she's talking about is like, we're going to start to see kind of the midlife, and she's calling it 45 to 65. So it's not really at silvers, in my opinion,
Right.
of just seeing like rebuilding careers, rebuilding identity, seeing like, we've talked about this, like seeing people come out and say, hey, I have menopause and I'm like, menopause has been great for me for a variety of reasons. Like, it's actually a strength and not like a condition that I need to be, held sorry for because of it. And just realizing that the truth is that we're all kind of like, heading headlong into like 100-year life, which will be average. And so, like, if you're gonna, you get to 65, like, you're just a third of the way, 2/3 of the way through. Like, it's not the end.
Right. Right. For sure. I mean, I feel like I'm, surrounded by this, living this, all of these parts and pieces. And to me, it's really, I mean, I couldn't agree with her more. I think it's not just like the focus is moving there, but within that group, within midlife, there's a real unlock. And that unlock is creating something that we have never seen before, a new way of living, a new way of pushing, a new way of being across the board, physical, mental, career, all of the things that are going to kind of change the paradigm.
I think what's just interesting to me is that we've been, I give a lot of examples, or have given a lot of examples of like products that are very much in the health and wellness space that are focused on this. But what I haven't seen, and then obviously there are brands who are kind of starting to show like kind of more elders as like aspirational, right? But what I have yet to see is brands effectively recognizing this shift and marketing to it if they're not trying to sell them something particularly to just like tweak it and make it better,
Right.
And I think
Yes,
that's
exactly.
the opportunity that so many people just seem to be like blinders closed to the opportunity.
I think that's exactly it. I think that's exactly it. And we've talked for a while because, again, this age group has such spending power and decision, from alphas to kind of themselves to above, as you've written about and talked about relentlessly.
Extensively.
And I think, honestly, the only products I can think of doing it, and they're doing a terrible job of it, are weighted vests. Like, that's the only one marketing to this. And it's not good. It's not good,
No.
guys. Like, we can do better. So, yes.
We can do better. It doesn't have to just be menopause pills and weighted vests. Like, there's a lot more that this group, like, even just fashion in general. Like, I just see so much of the midlife fashion photography is just so stuck in, and like, it's sort of trying to modernize and trying to be better, but it still never feels authentic to like where like this group is. It feels like it's like, we'll just portray it in a slightly better light, but it just doesn't feel
right. It's secondarily.
It still is like it's still like othered.
Exactly.
Still othered.
Exactly. Yeah. This is something I'm here for and would love to add to our 2026. Like, let's find a brand that really wants to embrace this. We're here for that.
Please. All right. And then Ben. Ben is one of our favorites. We work with Ben all the time. And one of the things that I love about him and his team is that like they are on the ground. There's literally like, if I know anything about alphas and Z's, but also alphas, it's from your kids and like every project that we do with these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like they are living and breathing this. The front lines of like, not just in a performative, like it's truly like, they work with these kids, like they work with young people, they work for young people, we build brands together for them. Like it's very integrated. And I think so many brands are kind of out here with the marketing to this age group, and they are on the ground. So.
Yeah, and they've been in it for a while. Like the way that they've just created that, it's not like these guys do that. It's really collaborative and integrated. And I think that's really just beautiful what they've created because they've been doing it for a while.
Yeah, and really lovely team to work with.
Mm-hmm.
But so he talks about, and I know he talked to his team about it too, is sort of like seeing influencers take a back seat and like actually seeing like, and we've already started to see this like on college campuses, like people tapping into sororities and having them in the campaigns. But I think it's even more kind of it doesn't have to just be sororities. Like I think it's about seeing genuine alphas and Zs like and showcasing them, and brands really like getting into kind of the nuance again of like those different like, and not just kind of alphas like beauty and that's like how we understand them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like boom.
Right. Yeah, I love the emphasis on community over influencer.
Yes. And I and if you read my predictions, like I've got a lot of feelings about where the influencer market is going.
I know.
And I think this speaks to it because especially on campus, like one of the things we really do see on a lot of projects that we work on with them on is that like the influence on campus is not necessarily just coming from social. It really is like an in-person kind of networking, and like being there and seeing real people has a real impact on brands.
Right.
And the
Great
growth
point.
on campus.
Great point. And great opportunity. Yeah. Okay. Fashion and retail, Michael.
I know. Isn't it just like nice that every time we get to one of these names, we're like both like, yay, like these are our favorite people.
I adore Michael. Yeah.
I wrote he's a retail expert with killer observations and a heart of gold.
It's so good.
And then I also wanted to add like an overachiever and always does his homework, like does the extra credit, because I was like, can you give me one prediction? And he gave me 3. And I was like, at first, he was like, of course, like being him. And he's like, just pick the one you like the best. And it's like, I'm not here to like, not use these gems. Like I'm putting them all out.
Yeah.
I don't care. So his first prediction is that automated and pop-up retail continues to grow. And, he talks about it like mall decline. I'm actually not sure that malls are in decline, but like, I do think that we are starting to see, like, I'm starting to see a lot more interesting vending machines, like super interesting vending machines coming out. And also interesting kind of like ways that people are working and like how you interact with like what's like needs to be human and what doesn't need to be human.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's becoming very clear. Because there's efficiencies that we still want. Like, I don't want everything to wait in a counter and have my handmade bespoke coffee that's going to take 25 minutes when I'm at an airport.
No. I mean, in the Paris airport, which I had a great experience in, like it's just so interesting. Like they're like, and all of like the McDonald's in Europe, like you go up to a screen, maybe they're like this in the US and I just haven't been there, but it's just like, that's nice. Like that feels great. Like that you're there and you can just kind of have your indecision moment at your own screen and you're not like at the front, like, oh, like I need my, like, I mean, I've eaten McDonald's like probably like twice in the last 10 years, but you know, I still don't like that feeling. All right. And then more luxury goes hospitality. And I think that, you know, yes, like he was like, I wouldn't be surprised if he see Aloe and Bays and Tiffany's and Co. Rivian, I think, is kind of already edging into this space, like by doing like the things that they're doing and offering these kinds of like elevated amenities while you're traveling. But like if I could see Rivian doing something like AutoCamp and like, or some kind of version of a Rivian AutoCamp kind of collab or like own version of it really easily. It feels right on for where people are going. And not as like a pop-up, like as a permanent sort of thing or in collaboration with a permanent situation.
And as part of the brand, as part of just who the brand is, you think about kind of that experience.
Right. But I think it's important to say that it's not like it's when we were in Milan, you know, we went by the Louis Vuitton cafe, which we couldn't get into because the line was like wild, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's one of the things that's different about that cafe, in my opinion, is that when you're there, it doesn't feel like it's not like a Disneyland version of your brand.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where brands go wrong with this kind of thing. And it just needs to feel like a great experience that your brand is enabling.
Yeah, it's in the details of it. It's in kind of, I think, the strategy of what are you really trying to do? And then really making sure that the details are there in the execution, because I think anybody can say like, oh yeah, let's create an experience. And this is, and you know, again, it's like you can't pop a stamp on anything. Like that's not going to cut it anymore. And so what is that really going to be?
Right.
All right. And the
I
third?
would love to help. That would be something.
Yes.
I'm Amp.
Yes.
If you want our thoughts on that, you know our number.
We can help.
Or emails or, you know, carrier pigeon us. And then the last one is like you know, more people jump into the beverage category. And I liked his example of like, so like McDonald's tried it with Cosmix, right?
Cosmix,
which was like that was their like coffee concept that they closed down pretty quickly, right? But I mean, certainly in Asia, like all of the brands, like, you know, it's the KFC has a coffee brand and this has a coffee brand and like they're all quite in deep competition with one another. But he was talking about like Chipotle or Hava coming out with like an agua fresca like concept, like, but not just like them offering these products at their stores, but like a literally standalone concept, I think is what he's talking about. Or like Shake Shack spins like off like a drink beverage brand. And I think it's interesting.
I think it's super interesting. And just, thinking about, you know, Starbucks and, you know, obviously it's a beverage brand, but also I think so much of it, at least that I see from my kids, is like the focus on, you know, the different, everybody's got like a really specific way. It's a refresher. Sailor wants a thing with this and a whipped hergana and like all of these things to it. And it's about kind of having this extensive order that's so much of the fun for them. And then the food or anything else is secondary to that. So I could absolutely see that happen.
Yes. I think as Starbucks has seen, though, it's interesting, like talking about automation, is that to me, like so much of that fun is like automating that removes the fun of it, right? Like it's in the sort of laborious process.
Yes, you got to say it. Yes, exactly. Yeah, great call. All right, moving us along, tech and Danielle Greenberg.
So Danielle is my bestie, so it's like it's very hard for me to think that anything she does says is not amazing. But like truly, that's one of the most, like she does AI consulting. She started working for Section recently, which is, you know, Scott Galloway's company. So she's now training people on using AI, and she works for a cybersecurity firm, like doing all of their go-to-market stuff on AI. This woman is living and breathing this shit on a daily basis.
On it and smart as shit.
Lecturing me this morning on just all the things I could do better on AI. But anywho, the first one I completely agree with. Like her view is like, I think for a really long time, and I think this is really hard for brands to understand, is that because they're like every brand I know, and this is like the tale as old as time, is like they're like, we're a Microsoft brand, we're a Google brand, like, and so it's like you guys like need to use Google products, and like that's what we're gonna pay for, right? Like teams who won't use Slack because suddenly like there's a Google like version of it and they can't use Slack anymore. one of the things that's very interesting about seeing how AI has kind of grown is the truth is that all of these different platforms and LLMs, like they have their strengths and weaknesses in different areas, right? And she talks a lot about how like people are, and I think another interesting thing that I've noticed is that the way that AI really is taking off is people are using it personally, like for personal use or personal work. And they're not necessarily using it because it's coming from a top-down perspective. Like they're starting to tinker with it on their own. And when you start to do that, you realize that they're all like better at one thing or another, right? Like I can use Google Notebook is incredibly useful if you have a body of work like good thinking. Like I've never been able to search good thinking very effectively on Substack. Like I have to literally remember the word, it can only search for one word at a time. So you have to literally remember a word that you're like I would have said this word, but make it an unusual one.
Opportunity Substack.
Well, but it's like that works really well. I tried to do it on ChatGPT. ChatGPT crashed. Like it was terrible. I tried to do it on Gemini, which also is made by Google and and it's just like everything is made to work in a particular way. And so I do think like companies need to sort of see their teams and look at their workflows and say, hey, like we're not gonna like blanket require you to do like that's like handcuffing your employee essentially. So I see it from that perspective.
Right. So just to be clear, the trend and that she's identifying is personal toolbox, right? That it's really like we'll be using these different AI tools for specific things versus kind of just within a bucket of like you've got to use just
Gemini really works much better as a visual tool. Like it's much better than ChatGPT is near to useless in terms of visuals. And then ChatGPT is really good at integrating into all of your email. And so it's just brands just need to think like if you want the most efficient employee who's like killing it, you need to loosen the purse strings a little this year.
Yep. All right. Second one, brands, plural.
Which is the title I gave it because she didn't give them a title. And I was like, we'll go with this. But again, she talks about this like it's exactly the same. Everybody not chasing the same story. And I think she's thinking of it as like personalization for a really long time was kind of faked. Like it would be like, hi, Kirsten, this is your email.
Yeah.
And it was like, that was it. And like most of the time it would be like, name here. And like, you'd be like, oh my God.
I just got an email that yesterday. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Genius.
And it's really like, it is still wild to me that we're here with brands being able to do that. But I think the expectations of sort of like how bespoke to you a brand will get. And it's not just like the email marketing, right? Like just to be clear, it's like how tailored they can be. And like one brand to another person, like you can go like, in this day and age, you could go on a website and have a completely unique experience just for you. Like it would be like, we know that Kirsten likes this. Like you go onto Zara and it would have all of the clothes that you like, that it knows that you would like, tailored to you to the top of the website. And that in the next year will be commonplace. And that's what I mean. Like it's you know, like what your version of Zara's and Sailor's version would be completely different, right? But it's not because she's going to the teen section. It's because she just gets on there and it knows that she likes this and she's done this before.
I love what she says, the brands that respect the complexity will outperform the ones that are still chasing a single story. Like, I think that's it.
Yes.
All right. Micromaid.
Micromaid. So she talks about this a lot, like on our personal chats, but like just people making bespoke tools for themselves. Like she can spin up a tool for me in like half an hour. Like I'm like, can I have something that does this? And she's like, yeah. And by the time we've like finished our chat about whatever it is that we're chatting about that's not related to that, she's made me a tool for it. And I think that one of the things that's really different about that, and it feels very kind of like web 1.0, is that these tools aren't like, they're not flashy. They just work. And they work for you. And like that there will be this expectation that it's like, I need a tool to do this particular thing for me this afternoon. I might never use this tool again. And like, you don't need it to look like, so, you know, this idea that like you buy these beautiful apps and they work in these particular ways, but like you're always kind of frustrated by the fact that they don't do the thing that you want them to do. You won't put up with that and you'll just build the thing that you want in the afternoon. It might be a more simple brand, but it won't be branded. And I do think that that is like from a sort of tech and app-based like business, that's a threat, a big threat.
Yeah.
Because I think people
utility.
will want that. Yeah.
Utility for the win. All right. Moving on to sport and Victoria.
Yeah. So Victoria is, I mean, she's like one of my, like, she's one of those people that I've been following on LinkedIn since I really got into LinkedIn and like kind of admired from afar. And then she left Nike and started her own thing. And she's now doing sports consulting. Like she really like writes about trends, but like, then we connected and it was like I was like meeting my idol. So that
Love
was
it.
fun. That was like at the end of this year. And so she talks about how like obsession becomes cultural capital. So like a pivot away from sort of high fidelity, like I would call it like expertise and like mastery. And this is somewhat similar to what I was talking about is like amateur sports become kind of the mainstream sport.
Yep.
It's like the place where, but she talks about it like it's broader than sport, how she's talking about it, but it's like the sort of the more deep you go, the more expertise. So it's like, you know, for a really long time, running, for example, like moved away from expert runners. And it was like, we went to like everybody runs. And so every brand became like, you know, and then Nike stopped selling their shoes in like expert running stores because they were like, oh, we only like, we don't sell enough in these stores. And it's like, no, the reason that you sell in these stores is that these people slowly trickle down influence the like schmo who started running like yesterday. Right. And I think that those communities for a while were sort of like high effort communities for brands. And then they stopped trying to kind of tap into them. So I think, yeah, you know, I think Substack is like the perfect example of this coming out, right? Is like people writing about the most niche things and having tens of thousands of followers follow them. And it's not just like people who are on Instagram being like, oh my God, like, I don't know what changed in the Instagram algorithm, but I'm just getting so much like, these are the 5 things I know, like type in reset to like, you know, follow me for all the best lymphatic drainage tips, you know? And it's like, have you ever done lymphatic drainage? Whereas on Substack, you can read, like, it takes a lot to write an engaging 10,000 page word article on lymphatic drainage. Like, so you can tell kind of where the
I think
expertise lies.
that's a great example. It's a great example. Yeah. And I think it's something that I'm really excited about. Just the idea, and I think what is it? The new Flex is simple. Prove you care enough to go deep. Just the idea of like really putting in the effort. Again, I think it's effort in it, and I think you can smell the difference between the person who just did one lymphatic drainage massage and is suddenly becoming an expert on Insta versus the wellness guru that's writing about it on Substack. I think that's a perfect example. All right. Speaking of Substack, moving us on to wellness and beauty with Jamie.
Yes, Jamie. So Jamie is one of those people that she just like knows all the cool hidden, really the right people. Like if you need a facelift, Jamie will know the person that's like, you should get the facelift, but maybe he's not like the celebrity facelift person. It's like the person that celebrities like facelift person follows, like, or it's like this perfume or that like cream. It's just, she really knows kind of a lot about this
She's
space.
rad.
And she works in this space. And like, she has a prediction that I could not agree more with, which is collabs shall die, which is, something I've been saying for maybe 2 years. Like but I like other people are not saying it. So I'm just so glad that like she's agreeing with me because I'm like, yes, I think, I think so many people, and I would put this in the like bucket of also just seeing like the same influencers doing the same partnerships, and it's like your J Crew, and then you have the same like people as like this brand, and it's always like the same people showing up, and it's just like, good heavens, is there anybody else left out there? And there's thousands and millions of people, and we're interested in seeing them all. But I just think that like we want to see more from brands, like, and more like, you can't just like steal someone's relevance anymore. Like I think we just have so much fatigue from that, and it's like, smash these 2 things together for the sake of it, or even just to like have enough products, like, this constant newness. It's like, I just don't think it's not resonating the way it was. And I think a lot of brands are still relying on it because of like the croc success.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And it just started to feel really dialed in, like, hey, this is a way we can extend our audience with little effort. Yeah. And I think it's fascinating to see where it goes, but I think there's definitely fatigue there. All right,
Cute.
Jenny.
Jenny. What can't we say about Jenny? I love Jenny. But Jenny is just like, she's just so, well, Jenny is like, it's like she's 6 months in the future, like all the time.
Yes.
But it's interesting, like in this particular one, like I think it's a quite grounded prediction for as the Jenny predictions go. But like something that really aligns with something that I wrote about in food, which is like, you know, longevity becomes the microbiome. And it's really more to do with like, how do we increase the longevity of your skin? Like one of a friend of mine, like we've talked about her before. She's a doctor at whatever, the major clinic in wherever it is. She's amazing.
Mayo.
No, the Mayo Clinic.
Come to it.
Mayo Clinic.
Yeah, that's what I said, Mayo.
Oh, Mayo. I thought you said Yale. But like that we can regrow the skin, like cellular energy will become like a big hot topic of conversation. And these are just not this is not topical, what we're talking about in terms of skincare and longevity. So like she's talking about longevity, but she's really talking about longevity of skin. But it's like injectables in your skin, but not like Botox to like freeze you in time, but really like injecting peptides, injecting biostimulating like ingredients that literally like retrain your skin to get younger. And that's where we're at.
Right. It's all of what she recommends is about the body remembering and doing a better job of healing itself in all of the different ways. She's an esthetician, so focuses on skin, but she means it kind of throughout. Peptides are, you know, helping your skin, but also internal, so that your body just works at a better rate. And you obviously, you know, glow because of that.
Yeah. And then she talks about the mitochondria a lot. If you ever get Jenny in a room, and maybe don't mention the mitochondria because you might be there for a while, but sort of the energy cell. And that will be I said that like there's water that's coming out with mitochondria health. Like it will be a topic of conversation. Is like how well are your cells actually working? Not like what are you doing to kind of freeze your cells? Right.
And she always looks for it through the kind of very natural way. Yeah. I mean, everything I know that Jenny's predicted has come true. So as far as I know, it's happening. All right. Travel. Tori
is writes Windows Seat, and she's just amazing. Like we met her in New York, and
yeah, she's great.
She's going strength to strength on Substack. It's so fun to watch. And she predicted that airport tourism would come. I think, to be honest, like she uses the examples of like the new LaGuardia Airport or Changi Airport or Hamad. Like these places are the destination, right? Like this is the place that, like Changi, you can like literally just go there and go to the spa, and like you might choose to literally stop there for 2 to 3 days on your way to somewhere else and never leave.
I'm in.
I know you are. But if we were to Singapore, we have to leave because we have to have chili crab, and then we can come back into the airport.
Okay.
No. But I was just in the new Charles de Gaulle Terminal 1, which
you just posted something, right?
Yeah, I'm like having a little bit of a moment on Substack notes. I had 3 posts go viral. I feel like like I'm really understanding it now. I just post pictures of things I like. But yeah, I was like so impressed when I was in Charles de Gaulle. Like, I mean, generally airports are like, could you have a less
Normally those things don't go together.
No, like, could you have a less comfortable seat with a less interesting color palette? And like, could you want to leave it faster? Like, you know, like even the airport lounges, like most of the time, like it's just really, like even the Centurion lounges, in my opinion, are just not that nice. Like,
no.
And this is the public seating at Charles de Gaulle Airport. It's just like, it's top notch, guys. Like you could just hang out there. And like some of the best like beauty displays, and like I mean it's literally like one of the biggest Hermes stores I've seen in a while. Like it is a destination. Like you could have gotten there 6 hours early and had like plenty to do. Plenty.
Love it.
And be happy to stay there. Devi is my college roommate, but also runs an incredible agency that focuses on food brands. Many of them, you know, and also hospitality brands. And
they do beautiful work.
They do. And she's just like one of those people that like understands the business of why something works, which is like so hard to find people who understand brand and appreciate brand, but also understand like how the business actually works and like make recommendations for it. And she's great at that. So she, speaking of recommendations though, she said that the anti-recommendation is going to rise. Like, you know, so much is like, and this is just like the entire internet culture of travel, right? Is like, you know, like the perfect day in Paris. And it's like, here's like 3 viral places that you're going to show up to and everybody's going to be there and it's going to be the worst day of your life. And it seems really appealing on TikTok paper, right? But then when you actually experience it, it just feels terrible. And so her sort of take is that we're going to like, get more specific about like how we give recommendations. So it's like really like more nuanced again, but also maybe just like not give them at all and like not want to take them whatsoever.
I mean, I love her examples and I love the idea of it being more nuanced, because how helpful would that be to really understand? Like, one example is perfect if you want to eat dinner at 5:30, not, you know, if you actually need to go to the gym. Like, just to really be able to understand who that particular destination is for would be so helpful.
Yeah, and I think the premise of sort of LLMs is that they could do that for you, right? Like that you put it in, and the reality of that is not the case. Like you put it in and it'll give you like still a very, very, very generic answer. And so I do think that's actually an enormous opportunity for travel brands to build like actual AIs that can like sort of give you something that would not just be like a, oh yeah, like, you know, if you ask ChatGPT, it just gives you the same 10 things, it'll just rejigger them in a different way.
Oh, I've been asking, researching our trip next week in the Midwest. Oh, I've been asking, and like it's slightly better than Google, but not really.
It's terrible. I think, you know, massive, massive opportunity.
Yes.
For a brand to put in some effort and like make that come to life. I do think Amigo kind of does that, but still very niche.
Yep. Yes.
But
yeah,
yes.
Amigo's a good example. Okay, we did it. We did the thing.
Yeah, I put in here fun for the week. If you get to this point and you think to yourself, like, I need more, 1, you might be a lunatic. But 2, you can read the predictions if you haven't already read them. Like if this is the first time you're discovering us and you don't know what we're doing or what we're talking about, there's a whole other predictions list that we wrote for Good Thinking that you can dive into.
And I would love, love, love to hear thoughts, comments on the predictions. What do you think's true? What do you think's not going to happen? And if anything else you think is happening that we missed? Yeah, would love to hear from people on this.
Yeah, and who should we have on the predictions list next year? You know, start the list. Start giving me people to follow. I need more. I need, you know, always love a new person in my feed. So if that's you or somebody else, drop it in the comments or in the Substack.
Right. And if you enjoyed this, share it with somebody. Give it a little algorithm love on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, all the places. Bye. Oh. Till next time.
That was it for this episode of Good Thinking. Don't forget to tune in next week.
If you found this valuable, subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast app.
And don't forget to read on Substack for even more insights.
And if you really liked it, drop us a heart. We'd love to hear from you.
Ciao. Until next time.